Greetings from the upper room. I hope that you had a great weekend this weekend. This weekend was one of the first weekends that I've had in a very long time. I'm talking years, where I've been able to sit down and watch most of the Masters. I love watching the Masters about as much as I like watching the Super Bowl, if not more so. And so I was able to do that. A lot of times the Masters comes on Easter weekend, and as a pastor, I'm pretty busy on Easter weekend. Monday, Thursday, Good Friday services, and of course Resurrection Sunday, Easter Sunday, the most important day in all of human history. And so a lot of times I haven't just been able to sit down, relax, and watch the Masters, and I was able to do that this weekend, and so I'm grateful for that. In fact, I still have my putter and my golf balls in here on the floor of my the upper room, and so I was putting while I was watching the Masters. So also grateful that the golfer that I was rooting for, Scotty Sheffield, won his second green jacket, and I was pulling for him. And one of the reasons, I think he's an all-around good guy, good believer too. And I like what he said, that golf doesn't define his life, but his belief in Jesus does. And so I think he's going to be a great Masters champion, two-time champion, and he'll probably win more. So I want to talk about today one of the post-resurrection accounts, and probably my favorite one of the post-resurrection accounts is that story of the walk to Emmaus. And you know the story from Luke chapter 24. After the resurrection, towards the end of the day, Jesus is walking the 7 miles from Jerusalem to Emmaus. And there are two disciples, Cleopas and then an unnamed disciple. They're walking the 7 miles, and they're talking about all of the events that have taken place concerning Jesus over the last 3 days. And so Jesus walks up on their conversation and joins them. And I want to read to you just a couple of verses, Luke chapter 24, verse 15 and 16. And here's what it says. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself approached and began traveling with them. Then verse 16, but their eyes were prevented from recognizing him. So what is it that prevented them from seeing Jesus, from recognizing Jesus? And I think that we can learn some lessons there, because there are things sometimes in our own lives that prevent us from seeing, from recognizing Jesus. And I think one of the first things is they had a profound sense of loss in their life. I mean, you think about they had put all of their hopes and dreams in Jesus, who they believed to be their Messiah, the one who would redeem Israel. And so on Friday, all of their hopes and dreams were lost, were crushed. And a lot of times in our own lives, we have a sense of loss too. Sometimes we have the loss of a loved one, the loss of a friend, the loss of a job, the loss of something in our life, maybe estrangement from family members or friends, children, parents, whatever the case may be. And that sense of loss will cause us to take our eyes off Jesus, because we focus so much on the loss that we don't focus on the one that can walk us through that loss and bring joy in our life again. And so we need to focus on Jesus, even in the face of difficult times and tragic times. So that sense of loss, but also I think coupled with that was a sense of defeat as well, because they literally had experienced defeat. And when Jesus was crucified on Friday, that was a major blow, a defeat in their lives. I mean, they had been following Jesus for 3 years, been following him and putting all their hopes and dreams in him, and boom, he's dead, he's gone. Now what? And so a lot of times you and I, we have defeats too, and we will focus more on the thing that brings defeat in our life. And let's talk about some of those defeats. Maybe a defeat for you gave into a temptation that you thought you had victory in your life, a bad habit that you thought you had conquered, and that you began to give in to that again. Maybe you have been defeated in some other area or aspect of your life, whatever the case may be. We all experience defeats from time to time. And what that does is it brings sadness, it takes our joy away from us. And the scripture tells us that the joy of the Lord is our strength. And so when we focus on the things that bring defeat, that bring loss into our life, what happens? It robs us of our joy. And if the joy of the Lord is our strength, then we need to focus on the one that brings joy rather than that thing that has brought defeat or sadness into our life. Another thing that could have prevented those disciples, Cleopas and his companion, from not recognizing Jesus was fear. I mean, you think about Jesus was crucified on Friday. I mean, the Roman authorities put him there on, and the Jewish authorities on their insistence. And so they were followers of Jesus. And perhaps they were thinking that if they can do that to Jesus, they can do that to me as well. And so there was fear. And sometimes fear will cause us to take our eyes off Jesus. Think about Peter when he was walking on water, when he saw Jesus walking on the water and he stepped out of the boat and walked on water himself for a little while. What caused him to sink? It was when he paid more attention to the winds and waves around him rather than on Jesus, and he caused him to sink. And when we focus our attention on the thing that causes the fear in our lives, when we focus on that, then we will sink as well. So we need to focus on the thing that brings us the victory that will help us overcome our fears rather than on the thing that brings fear into our life. The scripture tells us that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. So fear doesn't come from God, but it comes from the enemy. And the enemy has a 3-point plan, and that is to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And so sometimes the enemy will use fear in order to carry out his 3-point plan. So we need to focus on the one that helps us overcome our fears rather than the fear itself, and that is to focus on Jesus, and he will help us overcome those fears. I've heard it said that there are at least 365 places in the Bible where it says, do not fear. And so that's one fear not for every single day of the year. And so there's no reason to be fearful when our eyes are focused on Jesus, because he will walk us through those fears, and our fear can turn into a great faith. And so when we do those things, then we keep our eyes on Jesus, keep our focus and our attention on him, and he will help us overcome whatever it is that we're going through in our life. And so I hope that is an encouragement for you today. Keep your eyes open, and you may have fears today. You may have sadness today. You may have defeats today. But the one thing that will help you overcome those things, whatever they are, is to focus and keep your attention on Jesus. And he will open your eyes, and you will have victory, you will have joy, and ultimately you will be able to overcome whatever it is that you need to overcome, because greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. God bless you. Have a great rest of the day and a great rest of the week, and I will talk to you soon. God bless.